Hello, dearies. Welcome to our lovely story time. Tonight we're going to read some wonderful bedtime stories from a book called Half-Minute Horrors. Let's get started. Are you scared? The first one is by Tom Jenrich and Michelle Perry, and it's called Tentin. Father said stuffed toys were childish, but at 9, Ava still adored hers. Most of all, Tentin, the white rat. Tentin had velvety fur, worn and long tickly whiskers, and traveled with her between Mom's place and here. No matter what Ava's fears, Tentin always knew how to comfort her. One evening, Father, as usual, nodded good night to Ava and closed the bedroom door. She heard his chair whine as he sat down to work again. Shadows slowly lengthened into the night. Under the covers, Ava whispered, "I don't ever want to go back to school. I hate it." Something drove her to add, "You go, Tentin. You take my place." Tentin's red eyes gleamed. The next thing Ava knew, she was being tossed into the air like a rag doll. She hit the carpet, yet felt nothing. In the half-light, she saw a creature leap out of bed, a girl of sorts with shiny pale hair. Her hair. Wearing a pendant necklace. Her necklace. But a girl who moved like a rat, scurrying stealthily on all fours. Ava screamed. No sound. She scrambled. No movement. The girl-sized rat crept over, red eyes deep with malice reflected in them. Ava saw a little stuffed toy flung aside the carpet, white limbs a tangles, blue eyes wide with panic. Ava's eyes. The rat hissed and raced out to the open window. A long, naked tail snaked over the sill. Claws clicked down the trellis. Then the sounds of movement faded. In the morning, Ava heard Father's alarm, his shuffling footsteps. "Ava," he grunted, "get up or you'll be late. Ava." Ava did what she could, which was nothing. What did you all think of that story, dearies? Was it lovely? The next story we're going to read is by Sarah Weeks. It's called One of a Kind. When I felt the first tug, I knew I had something big on the line. Ka-ching! I thought. People paid big bucks for fresh tuna, and big bucks was exactly what I needed. I'd spent a wad on Gloria's engagement ring, way more than I could afford. But love makes a man do crazy things sometimes. One of a kind, the guy at the jewelry store had told me when he showed me the diamond ring. Perfect, I said, 'cause that's what my Gloria is. One of a kind. It took a good half an hour to reel in the fish. It put up quite a fight, but when it finally broke the surface of the water, my heart sank. "Mako," I said when I saw the gray fin. Shark meat wouldn't bring nearly as much as tuna, but I pulled the fish into the boat anyway. After stomping on its head a couple of times with my boot heel to stun it, I took my knife and, starting at the throat, sliced downward, opening up the gut. The usual fish heads and stomach juice spilled out onto the deck, but then something sparkled and caught my eye. There, amid the slimy stomach contents, laid a hand, a woman's left hand, and on the second finger was a ring. It was one of a kind. My dearies, that story is just lovely, lovely. The next one we're going to read is by Holly Black, and it's called A Very Short Story. Zoe sat on the bed with her mother at the foot. The overhead light is on, flooding most of the room, although shadows still creep up the walls at the edges. "Sit with me till I fall asleep," Zoe said. There was a party going on downstairs. Zoe's mother hesitates. She can hear the clink of glasses, the bursts of low laughter. She's restless, longing to be down there, but Zoe will just sit alone in her brightly lit bed and wait for her mother to come back and finish the ritual. Zoe won't sleep otherwise. "Okay," Zoe's mother said. "Get under the covers." Zoe snuggles down under them. "Tell me why vampires can't get me." "Vampires can't come in unless they're invited," Zoe's mother said, as she always does. "What about werewolves?" Zoe's mother makes a show of looking through the curtains. "No full moon tonight." Zoe's eyes drift closed, but she's far from sleeping. She has a new question, one she's just thought up. What about ghosts? Her mother pauses, looking down at her hands. Finally, she answers, "Ghosts don't want to hurt anyone. They won't hurt you if they do it by accident." "What if they hurt me by accident?" Zoe says, looking at her mother. "They can only hurt the living," says Zoe's mother, her voice soft. "Oh," said Zoe. After a few moments, Zoe is asleep. Her mother leans down to kiss her goodnight, but it's like kissing smoke. The end. What a nice story to read right before bedtime. The next one we're going to read is by Marco Tamaki, and it's called Wet Sand, Little Teeth. The hole was just about 4 foot deep and 3 feet wide. And mostly, it was just a hole this girl Jenny from the cottages over found. Jenny said she saw someone digging the hole, although she didn't know why someone would, create this big hole, then leave it there. I'd never seen anybody walking around with a shovel, but Jenny said she saw a guy. In some ways, the hole appeared almost mysteriously, as Jenny, who just sort of showed up on her front porch one day, looking for some snacks and someone to play with. "Wow, that kid sure is little for someone who eats so much," my dad used to say. "She looks like a lemur." Mom said to ignore Dad. It's good she finally gets someone to her age up here to play with after all her wishing. It may seem strange, but playing in the hole with Jenny was really fun. Jenny had a million games that involved the hole in the sand. The hole itself was kind of cool. Every day, Jenny and I found some new weird thing pushed into the sand and at the bottom. One time, it was this pile of teeth Jenny said were small white stones. They were pointy. Once, it was a chewed-up flip-flop. We would play there together all day until about time when it just started getting dark. As soon as there was a hint of no sunshine anymore, Jenny would always find some reason to go get out of the hole, typically by demanding that it was time to get a popsicle or something. "You can't stay here. We can't stay here," she'd always insist. "Get out of the hole." Jenny was a bit bossy. I don't exactly remember all the things that happened on that day in August. At some point, Jenny and I were fighting about something. By which I mean that Jenny probably wanted something, and I wouldn't give it to her. That evening, when the sun started to set, Jenny jumped out of the hole and said I should stay. "Stay," she whispered as she crawled out. "Go ahead." At first, nothing happened. Then the dark started spreading over the sand and sank into the hole. That's when I felt it. Something touching me, like a finger. At first, I thought it was a sand toad. Jenny? Then there was a sound, like a swallow in reverse, gravelly. Then it grabbed me, grabbed my feet. Something with strong, scratchy hands. I kicked one foot free, tried to reach out to Jenny, but she was walking away. I watched her disappear, watched her feet as I grabbed for the edge of the hole. Then I couldn't really grab because it was sand. Then something grabbed me by the shoulder, and I took a breath, and it felt like a hammer in my throat, and I blacked out. When I woke up, my mom was wrapping me in a beach towel, and my dad was holding a flashlight looking at me. "What's that on her shoulder?" Mom screamed. A mark, like little teeth. We still don't know what it was. Now I'm not allowed to play with Jenny or the hole. Dad filled it up. Just as well, I guess. Jenny's a jerk. The end. My. Sounds like a lovely little playmate. Let's hear the next story. This one is by Alexa Kellerman, and it's called Unannounced. "Hi," Alan said, his eyes huge and pleading. He was rain-drenched, slicked wet in a t-shirt and cargo pants. 8 weeks after dumping me, now you show up real nice. He wiped his face. "You've been counting?" Leave. She wanted to close the door, slam it in his face, but he looked like he needed to say something. What? He took one step inside and then back out. "I love you." She blinked. "Great for you." This time she had no problem shutting him out for good. At breakfast the next morning, her brother gently tapped her shoulder. "Emmy?" She rubbed her eyes groggily. She had barely slept that night before, thinking of the pleading look he'd given her, the rain coating his hair. "Remember that kid you used to see? Alan? What's his face?" She opened her mouth. "Why?" "They found his body at the bottom of St. Peter Lake. It made the front page." "What? What happened?" He shrugged. "I don't know. Papers said he's been there for at least 2 months." "But that's impossible." "I'm sorry, Em. It's probably weird for you. You haven't seen him in months. And now," he trailed off. "I'll never see him again," she finished. And she wondered if that was true. Well, what a lovely, lovely story. You think it's scary? I think so. Last one is by Lauren Miracle, and it's called Strawberry Bubbles. Earlier, before we heard the window shatter, I sat on the closed toilet seat and kept Amy company while she took her bath. I poured in strawberry bubble bath, and I moved the razor from the edge of the tub. I thought, how stupid to keep a razor in a child's bathroom. It wasn't a safety razor like my mom's. It was an old-fashioned razor with an exposed blade that gleamed. I touched it ever so lightly, just to see, like a bead of shiny red bubbled in the pad of my finger. Now I fight to keep Amy from running downstairs. "Scribbles," she whispers, struggling against me. "We have to get Scribbles." "Amy, no, I can hardly breathe, and my thumping pulse is making me dizzy." Thump, thump. so loud in my head I can barely hear. What, or rather, who is downstairs, prowling in the room of this cold, dark house? Not Amy's parents, who aren't due for hours, and not Scribbles. Amy's poor dumb bunny, who comes out of his hutch only when Amy unlatches the top and scoops him up, holding him like a baby in her pudgy 4-year-old arms. Only if you squeezed the baby that hard, the baby would cry. Scribbles never makes a sound. He's my bunny, Amy wails. He needs me. She twists free and darts out of the bathroom, the smallest, most tucked away room in the second floor and the best place to hide. But to hide, you have to stay put. To stay safe, you can't go seeking. But I'm the babysitter. I have no choice. This time when I pick up the razor, I hold the blade away from me, and at the last minute I also grab the plastic princess container of bubble bath. I don't know why, yet the heft of it gives me courage. Amy, I call hoarsely. God, it's so dark. I don't want to go down this dark hall, those dark stairs. But I'm the babysitter. I reach the kitchen. Someone breathes by the rabbit hutch. Amy? Then the screaming begins, high-pitched and piercing. Amy! Amy! I slap the wall to find the light switch. I flip it on, and a stranger has Amy. Dangling him from his other hand, hind legs thrashing wildly, is Scribbles. And it's Scribbles, not Amy, whose animal fear makes that horrible shriek. Rabbits scream when they're in mortal terror, the stranger says in a velvety, dreadful voice. Did you know that? I stare into his soulless eyes. He chuckles. Little girls scream too when I make them. He digs his long, bony fingers into Jamie's chubby arm, and she whimpers. But I'm the babysitter. I faint as to slash him. When he dodges, I'm ready with my plastic princess. I aim, I squeeze. Now who's screaming, you soulless monster? His hands fly to his burning eyes, and Amy flees, pausing only long enough to scoop up her stupid, precious bunny. Run, I cry. As soon as they're out of the back door running for the neighbors, I squirt the remaining bubble bath on the tiled kitchen floor. When the monster comes after us, half blind, he will fall, and he won't smell blood. He'll hopefully smell strawberry bubbles. The end. What a lovely, lovely story. Just what you want to read before bedtime. The last story we're going to read is by Michael Conley, and it's called Shortcut. The shortcut took me down into the wooded valley on the other side of the railroad tracks. It was dark down here because tall trees created a canopy the sun could not penetrate. It had not been raining, but the water dripped down on me from above. The air was damp, and the plants on ground level seemed huge, some of them with leaves as big as elephant ears. No one ever cut through here. It was off limits, but I was late, very late. And I could knock 15 minutes off my time getting home. The path grew narrow as it led me further down. Soon the leaves and branches of the bush scraped at my arms, and I finally saw the tunnel. Its opening was dark and lined with whitewashed bricks. As I got closer, I saw the tangles of roots hanging down from inside. I saw no light through though the rumor couldn't be true. The tunnel didn't go through, and then I felt warm air through the darkness wash over me. There was air coming through. Then there had to be an opening on the other side. I checked my watch. I was out of time. I stepped into the tunnel and ducked under the hanging roots. My second step landed on something soft. It moved and jerked my foot out from under me. I fell and my hands felt the slime. That was when I realized the tunnel entrance wasn't lined with bricks. They were teeth. The end, dearies. I hope you loved our lovely, lovely story time. Come back again next year and we'll have some more stories for you.